Hi, and welcome to the Seamless Blend, digital textile dialogues with Gabby and Jørgen. Our primary purpose is to educate and initiate discussions. The opinions expressed are solely our own and do not constitute professional advice or services. We invite contributions from our audience and maintain an open community on Discord. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome to today's episode of the Seamless Blend. We're back again this week, and we thought today that we're going to talk a little bit more about the state of scanning. We talked a little bit about the challenges that DPC has been facing over the last few months and in our last few episodes. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of stuff that's happening in the background and with the technology and with software and hardware and essentially kind of everything that's been happening also at the same time as things has been a bit difficult. There's been new scanners launched to market. A lot to talk about. So we want to focus on that in today's episode, and a little bit of just a quick introduction of my name is Jørgen, and I'm focusing on fabric digitization. I've been working with textiles manufacturing out of Hong Kong and China for about 10 years and had come into this from a manufacturing background. And together with me in this episode, I have Gabby.
Hello, I'm Gabby Shanahill. I am the co-founder of Bureau 555, a background in physical textiles as well, researcher and academic, and also a fellow of Bath Spa University working with Fashion Museum Bath. So lots of material digitization and fashion digitization in my daily life, basically. So we've got a new format. We keep on saying we've got a new format, but now we're in episode 10 of season 2. I think we can stop saying we've got a new format, but it's a shorter format. There we go. Context for this episode really is around the fact that last week I was on site with a UK brand working with a new scanner to market. And I just think it's really interesting with the conversations we've been having over the previous 9 episodes of this season. Jørgen and I have really tried to take quite a realistic look. We can't just be living in a utopian vision of what we think should happen. It's like realistically what's happening in the industry. How are people using material digitization? How are people using 3D fashion? Where is it actually having impact? And we were talking about the fact that obviously new scanners are coming to market every day. There's quite a lot out there. People obviously and companies believe that this is still an area to chase after. So that's what we wanted to look at today.
Yeah. I think there's quite a lot of positive things to talk about, but I'm at least very curious to hear a bit more about your experience in the last week, or how is this? I think we're going to talk a bit about, I think, the overview of scanners, what is actually new in the scanning world. We spent a bit of time in season 1 talking about fabric digitization and what that means. And so if you haven't, if you're listening to this and you haven't kind of gotten the foundation of it, we talked about that in season 1. And today is a bit more of an update on that. But so how was that experience like, Gabby, with the new DMIX material sampler?
Yes, so I was using the sampler from DMIX, which is actually an iPhone scanner. So it's a constructed consistent environment with standardized lighting setting in it, and so it's a black box, if you imagine that, with lighting in it, and it works with an iPhone 15, and we took delivery of it to work with it. The aim of this sampler is to speed up fabric digitization, and I can definitely say it's very quick. It's scanned with the app, and then it goes straight into the DMIX cloud, and you're looking at about 2 minutes for the entire process. So let's say you prepare your material, maybe that's 30 seconds to a minute of preparing the material. It might be ironing, it might be lint rolling, preparing it, making sure it's the right orientation, all of those things. You put it into the scanner, you put the lid down, the iPhone is on top of it, and you press the button. That's all you have to do. Like, as a user, you're not asked to be an expert, particularly in anything. You need to understand what the orientation of the material. You need to understand the face of the material, but it's quite like low impact for skill level of what you need. Press the button and it goes straight into the cloud. At that point, you have got a fully mapped digital material, understanding that it is not repeated at this moment in time, but it has been photographed and captured within a consistent environment, and then it's split out into all of the maps that we need for material digitization. So having that process in 2 minutes is a real leap compared to what we've been working with for the last 3 years. So I guess the next question would be like, why doesn't everyone have it? Like, why isn't it here? Like, quick. It's it's being rolled out, right? So we're getting user testing and it's being used in head offices right now. And
Mm,
the real draw for the customer I was working with is they've got 4,000 materials on site that they
mm,
want to scan themselves and have control of themselves. And
mm,
they're a very, very, very busy team with a huge amount of different responsibilities outside of just scanning materials. So what could they do that would be quick and easy and consistent for them? So I thought it was a really good scanner to experience. And the tiling is still the same tiling process within DMIX, which is a pretty
mm,
standard tiling process. I don't know how many listeners actually use DMIX, but it's you tile it in 3D Magic. But you
mm,
can also take those materials and tile them anywhere, really, if you wanted to.
mm.
You could tile them in Xtex, you could tile them in Photoshop, you can tile them wherever you want. It's the fact
Yeah.
that the image has the important bit and the exciting bit is that the images are captured so quickly and go straight into a
Mm,
cloud. There's no
mm, mm.
transfer, all this. Yeah, it's just done and easy.
Yeah.
That's my take
As
on
we're
it.
talking about tiling, even well, next week, Bandicoot is actually launching their auto tiling tool where you can just drag and drop PBR maps in, and then you'll get automatically tiled materials out. So
Yes.
that's another way, or another kind of interesting release around it as well. But I got to see the DMIX device or the sampler device in New York and in the late summer, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
very, very cool, very compact, very well built, and
Yeah.
a really
I mean, it looks
cool
pretty
kind of
cool. It does look
looks
cool.
very, very cool. Yeah. So it's like a nice thing to have in an office. And I think in
Yeah.
addition to that, which has been a little bit of a challenge before with other kind of larger scanners, is that they can be quite kind of big and is maybe not something that you want to have openly in an office that you kind of want to have a dedicated space for. But it seems like this new device is something that you can kind of just have on your desk, or it's really, really easy to pull it
Yeah.
out and use it when you need to.
Yeah.
And it has that cool look to
It's
it as
quite
well.
big. Don't get me wrong. It is quite
Mm,
big. I mean, I can lift it up. It's not like you can't lift it up or anything. You've
mm,
still got all the same constraints, let's say, of the fact that it's got to go, the bed that it scans is a certain size, right? So
yeah.
large repeats, you have to like move it around if you want to scan it. But the
Mm,
difference is when you put the material in, the material can sit outside of the scanner, so it can fold down the sides and be on the
mm,
table when you put the lid down, so you don't have to cut the material, which is
mm,
really nice.
mm.
So you
Yeah.
can scan bigger pieces without having to cut them, which I think
Yeah.
is a really nice thing as well.
Yeah. How did you feel like this compares to, like, I guess even almost like when we look at, some of the existing technologies, like a
Mm,
lot of companies up until this point, even if we go back to what we've discussed a bit before, where we often separate the kind of fabric scanners or digitization devices into either the kind of flatbed. A lot of companies have
yeah,
been offering flatbed solutions, including DMIX has also had
yeah,
a kind of a flatbed offering before, which is, from what we understand, still supported. But now they also have this new device. There are still some companies that have been using flatbed scanners paired with a bit of almost like, at least what appears to be a bit of a AI technology, where you put the
mhm,
material into a flatbed scanner, then generate maps with the AI processing. And then we
yeah,
have what's been around for even longer time, where you have kind of a camera that's fixed on top of a box, and then you have lights in the box, quite similar to, I guess, also how the DMIX sampling device works, but you just have an iPhone instead of a big kind of
yeah,
DSLR camera.
yeah.
How did you feel like that compared to kind of having one, or having worked with some of the bigger scanners, or the
Yeah, so
alternative
obviously
models
part
in the
like
market?
yeah, I would say so part of our background work is obviously looking at the comparisons of the scans. The scans look really
Mm,
good. You we might say at the Visu we're getting slightly maybe clearer normal maps at this moment in time, but we
mm,
can also see that obviously as iPhones get better, which they keep on doing, you just get a higher quality normal map. But
yeah.
the materials look great coming out of the DMIX sampler. So if we recap quickly what we've got the DMIX sampler,
Mm,
which is using an iPhone, right?
mm, mm,
We also use the Visu scanner, which is the box scanner with the DSLR on top of it,
mm,
which uses the Xtex software for tiling.
mm,
Um, and we've used that a lot. You know, we've used that continuously for 2 years, time and time again. And it's definitely, I would say, now currently my team's preferred way of working because they're really used to the software, they're really used to the scanner, they
mm,
like it, it works really well for them. But I think the moment you're offered something quicker, and I believe that speed is the kind of like the key to unlocking this side of it. The moment you're offered something
Yeah.
that's so much quicker, it becomes quite desirable.
Mm,
So I think
mm.
there's going to be, it'll be a balance for people who are purchasing. It'll be a balance between speed, quality, and time. Sorry, speed,
Yeah.
quality, and cost,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and the cost of the sampler is pretty low. I think what they're quoting, 6,000, 7,000 euros. Don't quote me on that. Around there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, the cost is a lot lower, and the skill level is not so is not that's needed is not so great. So that's probably in their favor, I would say.
Yeah. No, I think it's actually like you say, I think that trade-off is becoming more and more clear. And I feel like also now paired with we've seen from even like as like Bandicoot has this a scanning and capture method using just a handheld camera. And that also takes a little bit longer than it can take an hour to an hour and a half of then image processing in the cloud, which is quite long compared to like you're talking about 2 minutes. But then Bandicoot has also realized that it's the tiling that most people spend a lot of time on. So whether people have been using DMIX or Visu or whatever they've been doing before, I've heard from a lot of people that they're spending maybe half an hour up to an hour, up to several hours on tiling. And so I think now the different companies have been attacking the process from different angles. That like DMIX has now launched this new scanning device. Bandicoot is now launching this new tiling process in the next month as well. Then I think a lot of these things that are coming together are going to be, I think is really going to be upgrading the way that we're going to be digitizing fabrics, and almost like no matter what technology that you're choosing, you're going to be able to do it a lot faster than before.
Yeah, actually, to speak to something you just said about and referencing back to the flatbed scanners, we can use flatbed scanners until the cows come home. But at the end of the day, if the maps aren't good enough, there's no
Yeah.
point in being able to scan 4,000 materials quickly if the maps aren't good enough.
Mm.
So we're not, with flatbed scanners, we're not getting good enough displacement maps. If we can't see the edge of the material looking good on the garment, the curve of the material looking good on the garment over the shoulder, if it doesn't have that height, it immediately makes us think it's not correct. So it's not, I think flatbed scanners are a really good option for some people when they need them. I just don't think it's something that you're going to be doing 4,000 materials on all of, with your flatbed scanner if you're looking to take it into Clo, Browseware, and then onwards from there. I just think you'll end up having maps that just aren't good enough.
Yeah.
We know that Frontier have an AI enhanced service for the flatbed scanner, but I've not been able to look at those maps to understand what that offers actually. And really, at the end of the day, all of our customers want to see is well tiled and digital materials with really good maps. They don't really understand half the maps, but that's fine. That's not their problem to understand. We need to understand them, make sure they're good quality enough, and make sure we're delivering what they need. So if it's transparent, when it's transparent in the areas it's supposed to be transparent, it's got height in the areas it's supposed to have height in. That's our job, not their job. And I would argue at the moment that the flatbed scanner is not giving us that.
Yeah. I think that's been a bit of the challenge with flatbed scanners, as you say, is that you have the limitation with the sizing. A flatbed scanner is in most cases an A4. You could of course get an a bigger flatbed scanner, but you have a size limitation on the material. But really, that's not the biggest challenge. I think the biggest challenge is that you're kind of squeezing the material up against the flatbed, like the actual scanner, and then you have that light. The way that the scanner kind of moves the light under the material it's very difficult to be able to then get the reflections and almost like capture the way that a material really actually reflects lighting when the lighting is squeezed all the way up against the material. And so that then what the data that goes into the actual image processing and this kind of AI processing to then create the PBR texture maps, I think is really struggling with the reliability and the actual quality of the maps. And so that's just where I think, it's challenging for flatbed scanners, but also where we've seen even another scanner, as we were talking about this, remember DMIX had launched a sampler, but also HP has come to the market. I think as we've mentioned in a previous episode, a few months ago, HP came out with a new device called the HP Set Captis, which is almost like a little bit of this is like a cone looking device. And then you put that over the material and even move it around, and it's let's say less specifically focused on fashion and textiles, even though I think that's a big market segment for that device as well, but also very much for capturing other types of materials. Like it looks like, at least from what I've seen online, you could capture rocks or grass or kind of other types of texture. You can
Rocks on the
take it out
beach.
in the field. Yeah, but that's,
Yeah.
you know, HP is also a big company that have been around for a long time. They've also had a digitization technology on the
They must
market
have so much knowledge to add
before.
to this. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Exactly.
happened in the meantime, as I was almost like, you know, a lot has happened with challenges in DPC, but we've seen that some big companies have come to the market and is now really pushing and launching these new technologies. So that's, you know, more exciting things happening.
There was one other thing I wanted to, which you mentioned, which was talking about processing time. And this is speaking from, you know, someone whose job is to sit there, and our company to sit there and to process a lot of materials at one time. I don't consider the processing time particularly a hindrance. It's the capture time, right? Because actually, if it's processing in the background for you, that's fine. You're not having to sit there and do something. It's so the capture time is important to me. The processing time, less so, because if you know that you're going to have it there within 24 hours, or it takes an hour, but you do, you know, because essentially we all do batch work, right? You compile your tasks together and you do all of them. So when we do our Bandicoot work, when we do our Visy work, we do it all at one time together. So you're not switching between tasks quickly. So then its background processing doesn't bother me particularly. Yeah, it is definitely the capture. And then I guess just on the side, thinking about some of the material capture devices, and I don't particularly want to go into gouge and splatting because I don't really understand it entirely. But obviously, as we know, I'm just going to say two words: NERFs, and then gouge and splatting. As we know, these things exist that will help us make better materials. I am not a VFX specialist. I am not that person. But I know that out there, these things are around us that are going to help us make better looking materials in a 3D environment. Currently, it feels like it's a very much CGI VFX space that hasn't yet crossed over into fashion, because there's a bit of a tension there, because we don't maybe understand as much as we should about that space, or they don't want to understand that materials need to look completely correct, because they've never been forced to make materials look completely correct in that environment, because it takes too much time. So that's where I get excited, and I'm interested in that crossover as well. And the work I've been doing with Camera, the Centre of Animation and Motion at Bath University, the work I've been doing with them, they're really interested in how those CGI and VFX techniques can support the fashion industry. And that's what we're looking at with the Fashion Museum Bath. So hopefully we'll have some nice collaboration projects coming out of that, because I feel like the two industries keep each other slightly at a distance unless they're joining for some high-end luxury collaboration, which I'm not party to.
No, I think that's a good point. I think definitely there's we see this in the digitization space as well, where we have a few kind of visual effects artists and CGI people that have actually come into this with we've had this device called a TMAC from some VFX guys. We've had the like MXR, which I think has more transition to become more photogrammetry, where you can use a mobile phone to actually capture kind of a 3D model and recreate a 3D model. But there is a little bit, I think, of a gap between the CGI VFX space and the actual kind of fashion industry. But I think also, as I'm understanding what you're saying, and what I'm feeling too, is that there's a lot to be excited about, especially as you mentioned, you know, some big new technological areas and big progress that haven't fully been incorporated or even been considered in fashion just yet. So when we're looking what's happening in these other areas, we're actually seeing that there's some very exciting things happening, quite technical, and like even as well, I also don't fully understand on a deep technical level a lot of these things, but I'm very excited about what I'm understanding so far. So I think that we've seen a lot of progress in this year. On the technological side, and with the new devices that have come to market with new software, you can now, for example, like as you did last week, you could use a DMIX scanner with an iPhone, and you can capture then a material. And as you said, you don't have to even cut it. You could just move it around within the scanner, capture it immediately, have it up on cloud. From next month, you can then also use, for example, then a cloud-based tiling tool with Bandicoot launching that. So then you have a fully automated process where you can then capture the material, you can tile it, and then you can have it readily available and just kind of bring it into your 3D software, which I think is really where we want to get to that point of where you're capturing it and all that processing, at least from Bandicoot's point of view. I know that there's been a lot of talk about this, getting rid of tiling completely. That is not something that anyone should be doing. So I think that's also exciting towards the end of this year, that we're coming to this point where it's now easier than ever before to bring a physical material into a kind of digital file format that you can easily bring into Clo or Browseware or Optitex or Style3D or whatever you're using as a software.
Yeah, exactly. If it's quick, it's easy, it can go into the cloud, it's interoperable between softwares, then we'll all be happy. And it's tiled, automatically tiled. And then we can all just have a cup of tea, I think, hopefully.
Exactly.
Have a rest.
Yeah.
Well, it's been really interesting covering, I think, these scanners again, except, you and I having different experience in this area. And I hope it's been useful for people listening at home as well. And I think it does show the potential still within this space, that the unrealized potential within this space, which we're just going to keep see growing. So I actually am personally quite positive about where this is taking us. And I was also happy to be, using the first DMIX sampler in the UK and showcasing it.
Exactly.
For the customer. I think that was pretty good. All right. Well, thank you for listening, everyone. We will be back next week, and have a good week.
Yeah. See you next week. Thank you for listening to The Seamless Blend. If you enjoyed today's discussion, feel free to subscribe. We also invite you to connect with us and participate in our discussions on Discord. Let us know if you agree, disagree, or have any questions. Until next time, take care.